Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at idioms.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, and you gave us some really interesting material to work with today.
Absolute.
And it's kind of amazing when you think about it, how idioms pop up everywhere, right? You
Yeah.
hear them in conversations,
Oh, yeah?
in movies, in books, even in like professional settings.
Mhm.
And mastering these little expressions can really give you like a much deeper understanding of English and make you sound a lot more like a native speaker.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, idioms, they're like these little windows that give you a peek into how a language works.
Yeah.
They reveal so much about the history, the humor, the values of the people who use that language.
I like that. That's a good way to put it. Little windows.
Little windows.
So to kick things off here, let's define what an idiom actually is. I mean, we use them all the time, but sometimes explaining it can be a little bit tricky.
You're right. It's one of those things that you just kind of know it when you hear it. But trying to actually, define it can be hard. An idiom is basically like a group of words.
Okay.
That when they're all together, they have a meaning that's different from the actual words themselves. So you can't just take the words literally and figure out what it means.
Right. So like, for example, like break the ice. That doesn't actually mean you're breaking like a piece of frozen water, right?
Exactly. Break the ice is the perfect example. It's like, imagine you're at, like a networking event or a party, and it's kind of awkward.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's really talking.
Mhm.
So somebody, cracks a joke or tells a funny story to kind of loosen everyone up and get people talking.
Right.
They've just broken the ice.
Yeah. Or like the time I was at a conference and everyone was just on their phone.
Oh, yeah.
And I decided to strike up a conversation with the person next to me about their really cool phone case.
Yeah.
It totally broke the ice and actually ended up being a really great networking opportunity.
There you go.
So why are idioms so important for someone who's, trying to become fluent in English?
Well, because they let you express yourself in a way that's more natural and engaging,
Okay.
especially in social situations or even professional settings.
But there are so many idioms.
There are tons.
Like, where do you even begin to tackle this world of expressions?
Right. Well, I would say start with the most common ones, the ones that you hear all the time.
Oh.
Because once you got those down, you can, slowly start learning more and more.
All right, so let's dive into some examples then. Our listener has given us a few popular ones, like we already talked about break the ice. We also have a piece of cake, spill the beans, hit the nail on the head, burn the midnight oil, and under the weather.
Okay.
So how about we take a closer look at each one of these?
Let's do it.
So break the ice. We already kind of touched on that one, so
You did.
let's move on to a piece of cake.
Okay. So that one means that something is really easy to do.
Gotcha.
Like super simple, requires almost no effort.
Oh, yeah. This one's a classic. Like saying, learning these idioms is going to be a piece of cake. Yeah. Hopefully.
Oh.
But I wonder, is this idiom always positive?
That's a good question.
Like, could it sound dismissive in certain situations?
Yeah, you have to be careful with the tone and the context.
Okay.
Because even though a piece of cake
Yeah.
is usually positive, if you use it to describe a task that someone else is finding really hard,
Yeah.
it might come across as like you don't understand their struggle.
Right. Like if your colleague is working on this really complicated project and
It's
you're
like
like,
the-
oh, that's a piece of cake.
Not the best.
Not a good look.
Not a good look.
Okay, on to the next idiom, spill the beans. Now, this one sounds a little more mischievous to me.
Yeah, spill the beans means to reveal a secret,
Okay.
often by accident.
So, like that time I accidentally told everyone about my friend's surprise party.
Oopsie.
Yeah, major bean spillage.
It happens.
Okay, so we've covered a couple that are kind of fun and lighthearted.
Yeah.
How about we move on to one that's a little bit more, I don't know, precise?
Okay.
Hit the nail on the head.
Ooh, I like that one.
That one always makes me think of like carpentry.
Yeah, it does paint a picture.
But it actually means to identify something perfectly right.
Exactly. You've got it.
Like to pinpoint the exact cause or solution to a problem.
Like if a doctor diagnoses an illness correctly,
Uh-huh.
they've hit the nail on the head.
So you're getting to the core of the issue.
Yep.
Understanding it completely.
Exactly.
Okay, the next one, burn the midnight oil.
Yeah.
That definitely brings back some memories for me.
Oh,
All those late night study sessions,
tell me about it.
fueled by coffee and sheer determination.
The student life.
Talk about burning the midnight oil.
For sure.
And speaking of feeling a little bit burnt out, let's talk about under the weather.
Okay.
This one's pretty self-explanatory, right?
It is. It just means feeling sick or unwell.
Yeah. Like a polite way to tell your boss that you might need to take a sick day.
Yeah, without going into too much detail.
Yeah.
Just a subtle way to say, I'm not feeling my best.
So we've covered break the ice, a piece of cake, spill the beans, hit the nail on the head, burn the midnight oil, and under the weather. I'm starting to see how these seemingly simple expressions can add so much nuance and personality to the way we speak.
Yeah, and they're like adding spices to a dish.
Hmm.
You know, a little bit goes a long way.
So I'm feeling ready to spice things up a bit.
Me too.
How about we try putting some of these idioms into action?
Okay.
Maybe do a little role playing and see how these idioms would actually flow in like a real life conversation.
I'm game. Let's see what we can do.
Okay.
Let's do it. All right, so let's set the scene here. Imagine we're colleagues
Okay.
and we're working on a project together,
Okay.
but we've hit a little bit of a snag
Uh-oh.
and we need to brainstorm some solutions.
Ooh, this sounds familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So let's say we're feeling the pressure of an approaching deadline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The project's due tomorrow,
Yikes.
and we're still trying to figure out how to incorporate the client's last-minute feedback.
Okay. Deep breaths. We can do this. So where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first step is to really understand what the client wants.
Okay.
Like, what are they actually trying to achieve with these changes?
You're right. Sometimes clients, they don't even really know what they want themselves.
Exactly.
It's up to us to ask the right questions and figure out their true needs.
100%.
Okay, so why don't you play the role of the client?
Okay.
And I'll ask you some questions to try and figure out what you're looking for.
Sounds good.
All right, so tell me what specifically about the current design isn't working for you.
That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the current design is bad.
Oh.
It just doesn't quite capture the essence of our brand.
Okay.
We want something bolder, something that really pops and grabs attention.
So it's not just about functionality. It's more about conveying a certain feeling or image.
You got it.
Yeah.
We want people to look at this and immediately get what our company is all about.
I see. So we need to think beyond just the technical stuff and tap into that emotional side of things. Like capture the brand's personality, its unique voice.
I know you're talking.
And that's where those idioms we were discussing earlier could really come in handy, right?
Hitting the nail on the head.
Mm.
Idioms can be so powerful for expressing those like intangible qualities. You know,
Yeah.
the nuances that are hard to describe with just plain language.
So instead of saying we want a design that stands out, we could say we want a design that really pops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just got more personality, more
Yeah.
flavor.
Okay, so let's say we brainstormed some ideas
Okay.
and came up with a new design concept. How would we present this to the client in a way that really resonates?
Good question.
Well, we could say something like, we think this new design really hits the nail on the head when it comes to capturing your brand's personality.
I like it. That's so much better than just saying, we think this meets your requirements.
Right? Yeah, way better.
And to add a little humor, we could even say, we were burning the midnight oil to get this done, but we think it was worth it. Well, I love that.
Yeah.
It shows we're dedicated, but also, you know, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Right, a little sprinkle of humor.
Exactly.
Not too much, though.
Just a pinch.
So how can our listeners start incorporating these idioms into their own conversations?
That's a great question. One of the best ways is just pay attention to how native speakers use them. You know, in movies,
Okay.
TV shows, even just everyday conversations.
Like become an idiom detective.
Exactly. Observe how they use those idioms to emphasize something or to add humor or even a little drama.
And another tip is to start with just a few common idioms
Yes.
and practice using them with a language partner.
Totally. Because having that partner can really help you build confidence and get comfortable using these idioms.
Just like having a built-in idiom coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
That's how we learn.
Right.
The more you practice, the more natural it will become.
Okay, so we've got observation practice and a little bit of courage.
That's the recipe.
What other gems of wisdom can you share with us? I feel like this deep dive has really opened my eyes to like the power of idioms. You know, we've gone from defining them to like actually using them in a real world scenario. And I gotta say, I'm feeling a lot more confident about using them myself now.
That's great to hear. And remember, confidence is key.
Yeah,
The more you practice, the more natural it'll become.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not just about sounding more fluent, right? It's about connecting with the culture in a deeper way.
100%.
Yeah.
Idioms that give us a glimpse into the history, the humor, the values of a language.
Right. Like little time capsules of culture.
Exactly.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me of something we talked about earlier.
What's that?
The origin of spill the beans.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing to think that an expression we use so casually today
I know, right?
actually comes from an ancient Greek voting practice.
Yeah, where they use beans to cast their votes.
Exactly.
So cool.
It is. It's like Each idiom has its own little story to tell.
Yeah, little piece of history. Exactly. And that's what makes learning them so fascinating.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of idioms, what's the one key takeaway for our listeners? What should they remember as they continue learning English?
I would say approach idioms with a sense of curiosity and playfulness.
Hmm,
Don't be afraid to experiment.
okay.
Make mistakes. Have fun with it.
Embrace the quirkiness, explore the origins,
And
and don't take it all too seriously.
the journey of language learning is never really over.
Yeah.
There are always new idioms to discover, new stories to uncover.
So true. Well, this has been such an insightful and enjoyable exploration of idioms. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We hope you've learned something new today and feel inspired to keep exploring the amazing world of language.
Happy learning.